Imagine the greatest leaders in history: Thomas Jefferson, drafting the Declaration of Independence; Winston Churchill, rallying Britain during its darkest hour; Gandhi preaching non-violence. But behind the heroism lies another story, one filled with secrets they hoped would never come to light. Today, we're counting down the top 10 darkest secrets of famous historical figures. Starting things off, at number 10, Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers of the United States, author of the Declaration of Independence, and a symbol of liberty. But behind the iconic image of freedom lies one of history's darkest secrets. Meet Sally Hemings, an enslaved woman owned by Jefferson himself. Historians now believe she wasn't just a servant at Monticello, but the mother of several of his children, a relationship that spanned decades, hidden in the shadows of one of America's most influential men. Sally was no stranger to Jefferson. She was the half-sister of his late wife, Martha. Yes, you heard that right. Same father, different mothers, both enslaved and free. It's believed that their relationship began when Sally was just a teenager, while Jefferson served as U.S. minister to France. She was only 16. For centuries, this relationship was just a rumor, buried deep in history. But in the late 1990s, DNA testing confirmed that Jefferson was almost certainly the father of Hemings' children. This hidden relationship complicates Jefferson's legacy. How could a man who wrote the words, "All men are created equal," own slaves and father children with one? The story of Sally Hemings forces us to confront the contradictions in Jefferson's life. A man of great ideals who lived with dark secrets. The relationship between Jefferson and Hemings remains a topic of debate and reflection, one of the many hidden truths that reveal the complexities of our past. What other secrets could be lurking in history's shadows? Coming up next, at number 9, we have Winston Churchill, known as a hero of World War II, the man who led Britain through its darkest hour. But there's a shadow over his legacy, a dark secret many don't talk about: the Bengal famine of 1943. During World War II, in British-controlled India, millions of people in Bengal were dying from starvation. An estimated 3 million lives were lost in this humanitarian disaster, and some historians point fingers at none other than Churchill himself. Churchill diverted food supplies from India to British soldiers and other European countries, despite knowing about the dire situation in Bengal. He even refused requests for relief, famously blaming the Indians for breeding like rabbits. Instead of sending aid, Churchill continued to prioritize the war effort, causing shipments of wheat to bypass Bengal. He insisted that resources were needed elsewhere, but while millions starved, his focus remained on defeating the Axis powers. Some argue Churchill's decisions were cold, calculated, and driven by a belief that India's suffering was a necessary sacrifice. Others suggest he simply didn't care. Either way, the result was catastrophic. The Bengal famine remains one of the darkest chapters in British colonial history, a haunting reminder that even celebrated figures can have devastating consequences on millions of lives. So while we remember Winston Churchill as a wartime leader, we must also remember the Bengal famine, a dark and tragic secret of his legacy. Up next, at number 8, you know Gandhi as the peaceful leader who fought for India's independence through non-violence. But what if I told you there's a darker side to this iconic figure, one that's rarely spoken about: his controversial views on race? Before he became the Mahatma, Gandhi lived in South Africa for over 2 decades. During this time, his views on race were far from what we might expect today. In the early 1900s, Gandhi actively campaigned for the rights of Indian people living in South Africa. But here's the catch: he believed Indians were superior to black Africans. In his writings and speeches, he referred to black South Africans with derogatory terms and supported segregation. He once wrote, "We were marched off to a prison intended for Kafirs. We cannot possibly allow subjects of the empire to be treated on the same level as the natives." Ouch. Now, to be fair, Gandhi's views evolved over time. In his later years, he became more inclusive, focusing on human equality for all. But his early remarks leave a stain on his legacy that can't be ignored. It's a reminder that even the most celebrated figures in history are flawed, human, like the rest of us. While Gandhi is rightly honored for his dedication to peace, his complicated past shows that heroes too can carry dark secrets. Next up, at number 7, we have John F. Kennedy, a charismatic leader, a beacon of hope, and a man with a web of secrets. Today, we dive into the dark corners of his life, where health struggles and affairs lurked beneath the glamorous surface. JFK captivated America, but few knew the truth about his health. Behind that charming smile lay a man battling severe chronic pain and numerous ailments. From Addison's disease to debilitating back problems, his health was a ticking time bomb. His condition was so serious that it required constant medication, including steroids, which altered his mood and energy levels. This information was kept hidden, not just from the public, but even from many of his closest advisors. But it wasn't just his health that was a secret. JFK's personal life was equally equally scandalous. Rumors swirled about his numerous affairs with some of Hollywood's biggest stars like Marilyn Monroe. Their connection was a passionate yet dangerous dance, shrouded in secrecy. These affairs posed a risk to his presidency, threatening to unravel the carefully crafted image of Camelot. The pressure of maintaining this facade took a toll on Kennedy's mental health, making his hidden struggles all the more intense. JFK's life is a stark reminder that behind even the most beloved figures lies a complex reality. Health issues and scandals may have remained hidden, but they shaped the very man who led a nation during one of its most turbulent times. Was the charm of JFK just a mask for deeper issues? Now up next, at number 6, Mother Teresa, a name synonymous with compassion and selfless charity. But behind the halo of this beloved figure lies a story of controversy that challenges the very essence of her legacy. For decades, Mother Teresa and her organization, the Missionaries of Charity, garnered praise for their work with the poor in Calcutta. Yet questions arose regarding the conditions of her facilities. Reports surfaced alleging that many of the homes for the dying lacked basic medical care, with patients suffering from preventable ailments. Critics like journalist Christopher Hitchens called her a fraud, arguing that the funds she raised were not directed toward improving medical care. Instead, much of the money reportedly went to building new convents and funding a global network of her organization. This raises a chilling question. Was her charity truly altruistic, or did it serve a deeper agenda? Despite her image as a selfless giver, Mother Teresa's practices were often at odds with her public persona. Many donations came from wealthy benefactors, yet the lives of those she served did not seem to reflect this generosity. So what happened to the millions raised? Mother Teresa isn't alone in her dark secrets. History is replete with renowned figures whose legacies are more complex than they appear. So as we honor these icons, we must also question and confront their hidden truths. Now halfway there, at number 5, and if you have made it this far, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Now let's continue. Next up, we have Martin Luther King Jr., a name synonymous with the fight for civil rights. But beneath his powerful legacy lies a web of intrigue and dark secrets. In the 1960s, as King led the charge for equality, the FBI was closely monitoring him. Why? They considered him a potential threat to national security. Led by J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI launched a covert operation called COINTELPRO. Their aim was to discredit King and undermine the civil rights movement. The FBI wiretapped King's phones and surveilled his meetings. They even attempted to use personal information against him, allegations of affairs that could tarnish his image. While King's commitment to justice was unwavering, these allegations were deeply damaging. His struggles with personal relationships became fodder for those wanting to undermine his work. Despite these dark secrets, King's legacy shines bright. He fought for love and equality, even as the shadows of betrayal loomed over him. Today, we remember him not just for his triumphs, but for the trials he faced. Every historical figure has hidden depths, reminding us that even our heroes are human. Up next, at number 4, we have George Washington. Our first president, the father of his country, is celebrated for his leadership and vision. But behind the heroic tales lies a dark secret. Washington was a slave owner. At Mount Vernon, his plantation, Washington owned over 500 enslaved people. His success as a landowner was built on their labor, a stark contrast to the ideals of freedom he championed. In his letters, Washington expressed mixed feelings about slavery. He recognized its moral implications, but didn't take action to free his slaves until his death. In his will, he granted freedom to only one of them, a clear indication of his struggle with the institution. Life for the enslaved at Mount Vernon was harsh. They worked long hours in fields and faced brutal punishments. Washington believed in a hierarchy where he, a man of power, profited while they suffered in silence. Even after his death, Washington's complex relationship with slavery continued. His will dictated that his slaves remain with his wife, Martha, until her passing. Ultimately, she freed them, but only after his death. Washington's legacy isn't just about liberty, it's also about the moral contradictions of his time. He fought for independence, yet benefited from a system that enslaved others. This duality reminds us that even our greatest heroes have shadows. Understanding these dark secrets challenges us to look deeper into history. As we celebrate our past, let's remember the lives intertwined in the stories of our nation's founding. Coming up next, at number 3, when we think of Albert Einstein, we picture a genius, an icon of intellect, revolutionizing our understanding of the universe. But beneath that brilliant mind lay a dark secret. secret, his troubled marriage to Mileva Maric. Albert and Mileva met as students in Zurich, bonding over their love for physics, but their relationship, which began with such promise, took a dark turn. Despite Mileva's significant contributions to his work, including her involvement in his early theories, Albert's behavior grew increasingly controlling and emotionally abusive. He often belittled her ideas, diminishing her achievements. In letters, we see Mileva's struggle, her dreams crushed by a man celebrated as a genius. She sacrificed her career for his, yet received little recognition in return. Their marriage crumbled under the weight of his egotism and her unfulfilled aspirations. After 2 sons, one of whom was institutionalized and increasing pressure, Mileva filed for divorce in 1914. The divorce was messy, with Albert offering her a financial settlement contingent on giving up custody of their sons. This harsh choice showed the lengths he would go to secure his own comfort, leaving Mileva in despair. Albert Einstein, the man who unlocked the mysteries of the cosmos, was also a man who locked away the potential of the woman who stood by him. Up next, at number 2, did you know that behind the genius of Pablo Picasso lies a darker truth? While he's celebrated for revolutionizing art, Picasso's relationships with women were often marked by turbulence and abuse. Picasso, a prolific artist and co-founder of the Cubist movement, had affairs with numerous women throughout his life. But these relationships were not just passionate romances, they often reflected a troubling pattern of control and manipulation. Take Dora Maar, a talented photographer and painter. Picasso used her as his muse, but their relationship was fraught with emotional turmoil. He once described her as his greatest inspiration, yet their love turned toxic. After their breakup, Maar struggled with mental health issues, largely stemming from Picasso's harsh treatment. Then there's Françoise Gillot, who dared to stand up to him. She challenged his dominance, even leaving him with their children. In her book, she exposed the reality of their life together, shedding light on his manipulative tactics. His paintings often reflect the women he loved, or rather, the women he possessed. These artworks showcase a darker perspective on the female form, revealing how he viewed his partners as extensions of himself, rather than as individuals. Picasso's legacy is a reminder that even the greatest artists can harbor dark secrets. Behind the vibrant canvases lies a complex story of love, pain, and power. So the next time you admire his art, ask yourself, what's the true cost of genius? At last, at number 1, we have Henry Ford. The name is synonymous with the automobile revolution, but behind this industrial titan lies a dark secret: his troubling anti-Semitic campaigns. While Ford transformed transportation with the Model T and assembly line production, he also used his influence for a sinister agenda. In the 1920s, he launched a series of publications called The International Jew, promoting harmful stereotypes and conspiracy theories about Jewish people. This wasn't just casual rhetoric. Ford's articles fueled hatred and prejudice, reaching millions and giving voice to anti-Semitic sentiments that were already bubbling in society. As his influence grew, so did the spread of these dangerous ideas. Ford's writings played a significant role in legitimizing anti-Semitism in America, paving the way for extremist movements. In fact, his views resonated with figures like Adolf Hitler, who admired Ford for his strong stance against Jews. Ford even received a Nazi award for his contributions to the movement. But the story doesn't end there. Despite his later attempts to downplay these views, the damage was done. His legacy remains stained by this dark chapter, serving as a reminder that even those who have changed the world can harbor deep-seated prejudices.